You're listening to the Logos Veritas podcast. I'm your host, Brett Rogers. Through community, conversation, and lifelong learning, we seek to help you love God, love others, and make disciples. If you want to grow closer to God alongside those who love Him as well, this is the show for you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at and whatever time it is when you're joining with me. It's good to have you with me here on the Logos Veritas podcast. Today we're going to jump into talking about God's call on our lives and circle back to something that in prior episodes I talked about with you about my call to ministry that took place at age 11 when I was over at Lake Placid Christian Camp. During a time where we were at preteen camp, at the altar after a service where we had a speaker who had come in and was telling us about the things that God could do in our lives, things that he had done in the lives of the speaker and people who the speaker knew, and that even if God had directed us to do something that seemed impossible or seemed overwhelming or kind of scary, that we needed to make sure to trust him and not dismiss what the Lord shared with us or put on our heart. If he was speaking to us, that like Samuel, when the Lord was speaking to him, and Eli encouraged Samuel to listen, we needed to be having the same attitude. So during prayer time, I felt like the Lord had told me that my call was going to be getting into full-time vocational ministry. I didn't really know what that was looking like what kind of road that was going to entail, what kind of process needed to happen in order to start getting ready for it. Felt pretty unprepared in that regard. I didn't know anything about what I was going to be doing with my life at 11 years old. So I was just happy that the Lord was talking with me and that he was sharing this with me and giving me a direction to move in so that I could become the kind of person that he had designed me to be. So full-time vocational ministry as a pastor, especially pastoring, I felt like was the direction that I was supposed to move in. Fast forward 16 years, I wasn't sure if that was still the call the Lord had given me anymore. Now, growing up and really when I would see other people, one thing that I had always struggled with was if somebody knew something that they should do and knew that it was the right thing to do, or that whatever it was that maybe God had told them to do it, like they had the knowledge. When people didn't follow through on that, that just really ground my gears. I didn't understand always why that was the case, and when people would not follow through with what they said they would do, I didn't understand that at all. So, long story, much shorter. It comes to 16 years later. I'm 27 years old at the time. I've gone through high school, college, got a degree in college for secondary English education. Got out of college, didn't even get into a career out of college that I had gone to college for, so my ability to teach meant nothing when I was on the assembly line. And the Lord was good. He saw that I was able to get a job and to be able to provide for myself and my family. He saw all our needs and made sure to provide for us. He was very merciful to me here as I was figuring out how to pursue the call that he had placed on my life. During my time in college, I had started taking courses at ISOM, Indiana School of Ministry. That's done through the Assemblies of God, through their district, like their statewide network for the state of Indiana. And they have a school of ministry that helps to equip people for being able to do ministry in the state and everything. And it's really awesome, great networking, totally recommend it. If ministry is what you feel that the Lord has on your heart, and and you're a part of the fellowship with the Assemblies, that's awesome. So that being said, I had started into this. It's supposed to be a 3-year track. If you if you went straight through it, it was a 3-year track. I'm just on the tail end of finishing everything up here now, and it's been 11 years later. So, yay! But at this point, I had not been to the School of Ministry for several years. I started in 2010, I think, 2010, maybe 2011. I believe it was 2010. And this would have been around 2017. There was a point where I was feeling very disconnected, largely due to my own fault. Was feeling disconnected and was not feeling like I was getting any closer to accomplishing the goal, the purpose that the Lord had given me, this call in my life. And it was feeling frustrated. Didn't seem, by this time I'd moved out of the factory position, had begun teaching, and still wasn't ministering anywhere. Didn't look like that was going to happen. And I had been really trying hard to find the paths to be able to make that call that he placed in my life happen. Because I wanted to make sure, to please the Lord, to do everything in my power to be able to do that. And took a lot of that weight and that responsibility on myself to make sure to make things happen. And not that I didn't want to listen to the Lord, but I definitely wanted to be in control and to make sure to do everything that I could in my power to accomplish what the Lord had said. And really, even though I meant well, I was pressing on into the call that the Lord had given me, and doing so in a way that was running ahead of what the Lord's timetable was and the way that he had structured everything to go. He had certain reasons for why I ended up being at the factory and doing teaching, and those things have helped immensely as I've gotten more into ministry and working with people and everything. I'm very grateful for the Lord's mercy and for his grace, and seeing what was coming, the skills that I would need, and helping me to gain those and getting the practical experience outside of the church. You may be surprised to know that it becomes easy sometimes to silo within the church and to band around believers and become almost exclusive in the relationships you have, because everyone that you know is connected to the church, and everyone's speaking, the same brand of Christianese and everything. And, you're all learning your these before thous, except after thines, and talking about sanctification and justification and pneumatology and eschatology and soteriology and all the ologies, right? And you all know what you mean as you're exchanging these terms and stuff, and talking about the hypostatic union and dropping terms, and oh yeah, he's done some reading there, and everyone outside's like, what are you talking about? And makes it difficult to be relatable. So the Lord saw that was a pitfall that I was prone to and was running the risk of falling into, and spared me from that and many other things aside. So very thankful to him for that. But in the time, I was not seeing that. All I was seeing was I was feeling very disconnected from the church, and I knew that my call was to be a pastor, and was experiencing some frustration, honestly some bitterness toward the Lord, because it didn't seem that the thing that he had called me for, he was allowing me to move forward in, or if he was presenting ways for me to move forward, I was not seeing those ways. And honestly, it was because I was so focused on pushing forward that I wasn't listening to him and just trusting him. I was trying to make things happen and ask him to bless me as I was doing things, hoping that that's what I was supposed to be doing, and really began flailing there pretty hard in the spring of 2017. So we got to a point, my wife and I, where she was encouraging me to trust the Lord, to make sure to wait on him. I got very angry one night and had a whole box of study materials and stuff and pitched them, said, nope, I'm done. Obviously the Lord is done. He must have made a mistake or something. He's picked the wrong guy. This can't be what he wants from me anymore, because it's been 16 years and nothing. Not thinking at all of the folks in the Bible who have had to wait, like David. Moses was out in the desert for 40 years before he ended up leading the nation of Israel when he was 80. So, yeah, 16 years seemed to be the cutoff point for me. I finally told the Lord, okay, Lord, I don't have what it takes. You're going to have to make something happen if this is what you want from me at all, because I have no idea what to do. I don't know how to proceed. I don't know how to move forward with what you told me to do. And I'm done trying. It's going to have to be you. I get the sense that with the way that things fell and with timing right after that, he was kind of thinking, he must have been responding something along the lines of, finally, it took this guy long enough to decide to trust me. Long story short, after that, we got involved in a Sunday night ministry group where some young adults had been pulled together by our senior pastor, and we were preaching on Sunday nights, leading worship, and being trained to do the work of the ministry. And for those of us who were in different areas, we were being given different avenues on how to be able to minister to the congregation. It was there, and it was really a great time. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and look back, made some great friends, learned some good things, made a lot of mistakes, but there was a lot of grace being extended there as we were all in the growing process. It was from that our pastor, one day, he called me over to his house, and after one of the times where I was preaching, and I thought I must have missed something in my sermon prep. I thought I scanned for anything that could possibly, be fishy, be any kind of anything close to heretical, and what have I missed? What have I said wrong? And was, excuse me while I quietly sit here and overanalyze the snot out of why I could possibly be asked to be over here at his house. And he didn't give any signals about anything being wrong, anything like that. I just, instantly went to, it has to be bad. And we sat down, and he said, that's when he said, we have been talking, myself and the board, and how would you feel about joining us on staff? Oh, well, yeah, let's talk. That happened about 6 months after I told God, okay, God, I can't make this happen anymore. It's got to be you. And just let go and trusted that if that was going to be something that he had for me, that I'd be trusting him to bring the process to the next step. Reminiscing on all this, we've had some developments here over the last couple months that have really culminated here, where last week we had the announcement made at Delphi First Assembly, the church where I'm an associate pastor at. Announcement was made that the sister church that we've been ministering at over in Kokomo, at Southview Assembly of God, that I will be the campus pastor over there, and will be moving into that role and out of the associate pastor role for Delphi First Assembly. It's very exciting, but it's also going to be a little sad. Having formed relationships with folks and built connections in Delphi for 20 years. Not like we'll be super far away or anything. We'll still be able to see folks that we know and be in connection with folks, but we'll be with a new church family. And one thing that Candace and I, that we really like to emphasize and that we really hold to be true, is that as you connect with your church family, that this ought to be more than just, oh yeah, that's a face or the back of a head that I see on a Sunday morning. That there should be a close familial bond that you have within the body of believers at your church. And that can't just take place if you're just there once a week, once every other week, if that, or if you're just together during service times, singing and then listening, and then you leave. You haven't connected with anybody yet. So there's going to have to be more going on than just being there for services, maybe for a class or something. We want to make sure that as a church that we're getting to know one another, that we're not just sharing the word with one another, but like Thessalonians says, that we're pleased to do more than just to share the word, that we're also pleased to share our lives with one another because we become dear to each other. I'm adapting that to what I'm saying here, but more than just sharing truth, we want to share our lives with each other and connect with each other as family, because there are some times, where, yes, we understand that we're people, that we're fallible, that we may fail one another. But church family ain't the only family that'll fail you. There's also your blood family. There's friends. There's work, right? And we've had folks over at Delphi tell us that my family here is closer to me than my blood family is. This is my real family. Wow. God, you are so good to be able to allow us to tie together and be so closely knit together like that. To not only not as if it's a just thing, like just a little bit, or it's only that we get to be with you for all of eternity, and we're part of the body of Christ now, made alive in Jesus by the power of the Spirit. But more than that, as we come together here in his name, and we get to know each other, and we become a body of believers, there's an overlap that takes place as we gather in his name, of what's going on here on earth, of what's taking place in heaven, where the body of believers is coming together, that we will be the body of Christ, the bride of Christ, and praising and glorifying his name, gathering together to bring glory to him, to be with him, and that purpose overlaps. And we join together with the saints that have gone before. There's just something very special about that we don't want to take for granted. So a long way of saying, as we start 2022, we'll be over in Kokomo. Candace and I will. And there's a lot of things that are going on to allow for that move to take place. At home, we have a decent trip to be able to get over there, and we're looking for a different place to live at the moment. And then there's also going to be things, expanding ministry in Kokomo that we're excited about, but we would also appreciate prayer for. If you guys would be willing to pray for me and Candace, we would very much appreciate that. We're excited about what the Lord has in store here, moving into pastorate position here over at Southview Assembly of God in Kokomo, and didn't see that this was coming here, even just 3 months ago or so. Man, if you listen to the Lord, one thing that I know that in Romans 11, where Paul's talking about Israel, but in Romans 11, we're told that the gifts and the callings of the Lord are irrevocable. And just looking at, I knew that I was absolutely sure that he told me that being a pastor was something that he had in store for me, was his purpose for me. And that if I would trust him, that he would develop me and help me to step into that calling. And so I took that as I had to make that happen, and spent a lot of time, a lot of effort trying to force things to be able to accomplish that calling and be able to step into that, when trust, humility was what was needed. And so here's we're celebrating Jesus coming and being with us, being God with us, Emmanuel. Just caused me to, as the change is taking place here in our own life and with our family, with Candace and me and the boys, as well as with our church family, in some ways we're growing. We're dividing in order to multiply, which is exciting, and carries some unique challenges with it as well. Just looking at how good the Lord is, and how nothing is impossible for him, and things that seem like they are impossible, if the Lord has spoken to you, just put your trust in him. He knows the right time to bring things about, and how to build you without breaking you, without giving you too much too soon, which would destroy you. Even when we think it's the right time, the Lord, he has a time, he has a season for everything, and if we'll trust him, he will lead us in good paths for his name's sake. Well, guys, this has been Brett with Logos Veritas here. Thank you so much for joining me. Just a quick announcement here for the rest of the year until we get into the new year. So January I try to produce these every Tuesday and Thursday. So Tuesday after the new year will be the first of the new sessions that I'll be recording and posting. So be looking for that to drop sometime Tuesday. Sometimes it's Wednesday when it drops. Sometimes it's a day later. But yeah, we'll be taking the rest of the year off here for the holidays, for getting things ready for moving and for transitioning and everything. So hope you guys have been blessed by the podcast so far. Looking forward to what the Lord has in store in the future, coming down the pipeline. And we'll be in touch here again soon. God bless. Thanks for joining us for today's episode of the Logos Veritas podcast. If you like today's episode, please like and subscribe and share this episode with any friends that you think may enjoy it. If you'd have any questions or would like to contact us, you can reach us via email at logosveritaspodcast@gmail.com or through Facebook, Discord, and YouTube. Thanks again for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.